Hey, well, thanks a lot for coming on the show. I appreciate you giving me some of your time.
Thank you.
And pretty stoked here. The Haunted 10th studio release, right? Songs of Last Resort.
Yeah.
That must feel pretty cool getting to like a double digit studio albums, like that.
I guess it is. We haven't really thought about it that way. I have another band, Witchery. We're also on the 10th album. So
Cool.
I guess it's just a sign of us getting older.
I guess so. Yeah. Knowledge and accomplishments as you age gracefully, right?
Yeah.
I just want to mention, like, you're wearing a hoodie that says Canada. I'm in New Brunswick, St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. And actually, there's a kind of one of the jokes here in New Brunswick is a lot of people end up moving out to Alberta to work and to get a little extra money to send back home. And I know you were born or grew up in Edmonton. Is that right?
I'm born in Sweden, but I grew up in Edmonton.
Oh, okay. So you grew up. So how do you mind if we just touch on that just for a brief minute, just to give everyone a little bit of a background there? Like, how did you end up in Edmonton?
Everyone on my mom's side moved there. It was still like the big immigration that happened from Europe. They were just very late to join.
Okay.
So they all moved. We were the only family. I think it was 5-6 families that moved, and we were the only family that moved back. So I got there to Edmonton when I was 4, moved back when I was 10. So I have a whole bunch of cousins still in Edmonton.
Okay, cool. So like when you play Edmonton, is it like a little bit of a family reunion?
Yeah.
Or
They show up. Yeah.
That's cool. Did you start music in Fredericton? Like, did you start playing when you were out there, or Fredericton, Edmonton?
Yes. I got my first electric guitar when I was 7. So I started music school there.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I moved back to electric guitar, pick and everything, and the simple rock songs that a 7-year-old can play.
Mm-hmm.
Moved back to Sweden. I had to play an acoustic guitar, and I used my fingers, and it sucked, so I dropped out.
Okay.
And when I was 12, maybe 13 or something, I heard AC/DC, and they play chords, and I can play that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got into hard rock and metal and everything. And,
okay.
Yeah.
So when you went back to Sweden, the music school you were in was like kind of forcing you to learn, like, was it classical guitar or just fingerstyle picking?
Yeah, no, classical guitar, because they weren't used to someone like that young having an electric guitar, and they were still training the basics.
Okay.
Now this was what do you call it? Like music school through regular school, so it was free. But yeah, that wasn't what I wanted to do. It was pretty rigid back then.
Okay. That's interesting. I can kind of relate because when I was really young, I wanted to play violin, like classical, but where I'm at, kind of fiddle music and country music is kind of like the thing. So my parents put me into that, not knowing the difference. So I can kind of relate to that. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, let's talk about the record, because it's like right out of the gates. You've put out the first 2 tracks as singles. Right out of the gates, it's like pretty, pretty aggressive. Quite a banger of a record.
Yeah.
And it was recorded live off the floor. Is that right?
You mean everyone together at once?
Yeah. Did you record? Yeah, live as a group?
No. That's how we did it in the beginning, and also verses. That was also recorded live. 21 songs actually.
Wow.
But that's when you're a rehearsing band, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
After we changed a lot of members in 2012, all of us, we live in different cities. I mean, Adrian, he lives in London, so it's a different country. So we don't have the opportunity to get to learn the songs well enough. I mean, together. Mm-hmm. So we have to record so if you will, the standard way. So drums first, then bass and guitars and so on.
Okay.
But for this album, because a lot of people say that it's personally, I don't like metal that's too rigid. Because I want my metal to be dangerous. If it's too rigid, if it's too to the grid, you aren't. That you won't be surprised. It won't to the. I've actually read science papers on this that your brain gets numb because nothing is. It's all the drum hits are equally hard, and
Okay.
We want to create that more loose and the band is breathing kind of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy that we recorded with Oscar Nilsson. He's a huge Haunted fan, but he's also a metal drummer. So when he recorded Adrian, he made sure like, you can do better, or you can top this, or try this. And, so Adrian had great coaching.
Okay.
Jonas comes in and puts down the bass, and then Ola does the rhythm guitars. Then Marco, when he recorded the vocals in Stockholm, he had Björn Strid from Soilwork to coach him. Mm-hmm. The vocals, because he used to have another guy record him. You don't need a fancy studio to do the vocals. So, but that guy had moved. We needed a new guy. I suggested Björn to Marco, and he was like, "Oh man, nah," because singer, your instrument is your body. Mm-hmm. So it's if you have a guitar player sitting with his arms folded like this, saying, "You can do that better," singer doesn't take that well. Okay. So I was thinking, Björn Strid, he's also a singer, and both Marco and Björn know each other. They respected each other. Maybe Björn can talk to Marco in a way that, a singer would. And I think it's the best vocals that Marco's done, actually. And Ola's solos are better than ever. And, and Jens Bogren's production, everything just came together. Stars aligned. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree that the vocals are intense, and they're not too above the mix. They're tucked into the mix nicely. The guitars are like thick and heavy, and the drums don't always like overpower.
Yeah.
And it made me want to ask you about kind of if you noticed any like production differences between like European or Scandinavian metal and like North American metal. Is there any obvious differences you think about or hear?
I wouldn't say so these days. I think there was a time where everything needed to be, even the smallest tom was equally loud, the whole production. And it just because you had the computer recording setup so you could control all that. But, with the arrival of AI and all that kind of, you can make a, so to say, metal song in just seconds. Mm-hmm. It's more important to make the band sound like a real band. Like all drum hits won't be equally hard, and so there's if the music is more fluid, kind of. That's also part of making it sound real and dangerous to me. Mm-hmm. I don't want everything. It's almost like a scientist has, dilated. Nothing will disturb anything. All frequencies, nothing will interfere. Like, what I want.
It's like everything's perfectly boring.
Boring. I love Altars of Madness, the chaos from that album, So that's what I want. And I think Jens did a great job with that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Do you think that's kind of like a learning curve these days for younger bands because maybe it's really easy to sound like quote unquote good because you can snap everything to the grid and overproduce it. And like in the moment it sounds really good, but then the music doesn't have any staying power. Is that kind of a lesson younger metal musicians need to learn?
I think actually older bands need to learn that because they grew that, and eventually this is how you make albums. You copy and paste and whatever, but there's a lot of emerging younger bands that just, move over grandpa. They have a lot more energy that they can't hear on these other albums. So I think, bands that kind of maybe Haunted, been around for a couple of years, I think they need to, listen in on what's happening.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. How boring. A lot of the productions from the 90s sound boring. Mm-hmm. Then they sound too perfect. I think it's time to let in some, let the band, let me hear the band. I want to hear the band.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's interesting. It makes me think too, I've had some debates with certain engineers or mixers here where like, you'll be listening to a mix and something will jump out and it'll be like, you're like, oh, that bass lick jumped out, bass guitar lick. Let's tune that back. Like maybe that's a mistake. Maybe we shouldn't do that. But at the same time, it's like, didn't that just make you pay attention to that section of the song?
Exactly. It's the imperfections that may give your character. Mm-hmm. So like one of my favorite albums, Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath. There's a part where there's one guitar stops, the other one continues, and you hear the pick against the strings on the so quote unquote quiet guitar, like, and that is part of how I play it, because that is what's there. It's so cool. It's like those little things that make the music. You know, it's like asking if you want everything to a grid. It's like asking Rembrandt or something, and you're going to paint a painting, but you need to stay within the lines. Like what? The painter decides on how blurry it needs to be or whatever. You know, it's also for musicians. This is what we want to sound like. You know, so if you have rules, like if there's a competition that, oh, this band plays a lot tighter to the grid, I mean, then you're talking about sports, because then you can start measuring how good a band is, and that's not what anyone wants, right?
That's interesting. That's a good way to put it. Measure. That's pretty interesting, because I agree. It's like the grid is very precise. That's a funny way to put it. Yeah, measuring the band.
I'll give you another argument if you want to argue with a mixing engineer.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, for many bands, like say that you have Lombardo in the band, or if you have Eddie Van Halen, there's always in good bands they lean against someone, and you know that's the band's sound. And if you take away Lombardo, it's going to sound different. If like bands record like first drums and then bass and so on, the only person, or so to say, person that's in the studio all the time is the click, right? So everyone is playing along to the click. So the click is the most important band member. So all these bands have the same most important band member. Gotcha. How fun is that?
That's funny. That's it. So that Pro Tools click sound is the band leader for a lot of bands.
Exactly. And when you tell people this, like, oh yeah, man, it makes sense. And that's boring. Yeah. Why do you want to make your band sound like everyone else? I want to hear the band.
Yeah. That's interesting too. And a lot of times too, not to get too nerdy about this, I guess, but I find it interesting because I engineer a bit, but like you could really easily mix with your eyes, you know, like you could be listening to a mix and be like, that sounds great. But then you zoom into the grid just to make sure it's all perfect. And then you end up changing the mix with your eyes instead of with your ears.
Isn't it crazy that in the 70s, they only mixed with their ears?
Yeah.
That's impossible, man. Yeah. Must have sounded like crap.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild. Well, so that's what I'm glad that record, like when I hit play on the record and, I was like, man, this is just a banger, like all the way through. And, you know, a couple groovy songs, like I think To Bleed Out, kind of the way that song is like, it's not quite as up tempo as the rest of the record, but it's got that groove to it that kind of like really just, I don't know, grabs your attention.
Yeah. That's my song. I usually don't, write the melodic parts because I think I'm better at the aggressive parts. And when we have Jonas Björler in the band, I mean, he's touched by the gods when it comes to melodic stuff. I work with making guitar plugins. So there's been an 8-year gap in between we put out albums. And I thought that I found it harder to write music because we couldn't rehearse. I had to do it in the computer. I found it harder to write. And I was thinking, okay, well, a lot of my older favorite bands, they don't sound as good. And, you know, maybe it's just getting older. You know, riffs are drying up or something. So, okay, maybe I'm at that point. But then the guitar team that I led, we put out a guitar plugin March last year. And all of a sudden, it sounded like I was in the rehearsal space. So between March and the end of summer last year, I had written 11 songs.
Wow.
So it was all in the sound. And when I had written maybe, I don't know, 9 songs, you know, okay, so maybe I'll just try to, I mean, if the guys don't like it, then, you know, I still have all these other songs for the album. So I tried my hand at writing melodic. I think it turned out, I really like the song. I think the standout part of that song is the chorus because it's a 3-harmony guitar thing, and it's we call it the Thin Lizzy part in the band.
Yep.
And I've never written anything like that before, and I'm pretty proud of it because I haven't done that stuff before. So I'm happy about that riff.
Okay, cool. Yeah, like it's kind of the song. I would say I've heard the album a few times now, and I would say it's the one that just kind of like floats around in my head later on. If I walk away and I find myself do 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 do, like I'll just kind of be grooving to that later on without even knowing what I'm replaying in my mind. You know?
Sure. Yeah. Cool.
And it's kind of like that too. The Labyrinth of Lies is kind of like a slower one. Well, I don't know if slow is not the right word, but Labyrinth of Lies is another one that's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of got like a cool vibe across the whole record.
Yeah.
So you're mainly doing aggressive music. Is that, thinking about when you write, is it all about like that first riff, or do you kind of just like improv and come up with riffs that kind of go one after another pretty seamlessly, or do you have a process?
Yeah, so I never focused on learning to play solos because I think there's so many bedroom guitar players that play solos, a lot better than I ever will. Mm-hmm. But there's not that many that write good songs. So I wanted to be a good songwriter. And one of the things that I do focus on is that you need to capture the attention, the listener. So there has to be something. It could be a cool riff. It could be a cool, stabs with the drums along with whatever, or just a strange sound that, makes you like, what was that? Just to catch it. You know how Spotify, it's so easy to just go, boring. There needs to be something. Mm-hmm. I also find that the songs that, so to say, write themselves, you just write from, not from your head, but from your stomach, I usually say, like with emotions. Like this riff, it feels like it should go here. Mm-hmm. The faster I can complete a song that I'm happy with, the more people seem to like it, because it also appeals to their emotions more than their head. Maybe I don't write thinking man's metal. I don't know, but because the music is aggressive, it needs to fuel that thing. Mm-hmm. So if I have a riff I can't come up with anything that sounds good next to it. Then it'll whatever I put next to it, it will be too what's the word? Forced, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. It'll feel forced.
Yeah. Okay. So it's better to just this riff feels like it wants to go here, okay. And then you write a song that has that feel that like predestined. It wants to take you here. So those are the songs that I find they are the quickest to write, and they are the ones that I like the most, and people seem to like the most. Like there's a song on the Haunted Baby Doodle album, the first the instrumental song, Dark Intentions. Mm-hmm. That's kind of our hallmark song. It's kind of our doorbell. It's 1.5 minute long. I wrote it in maybe 3 minutes.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Also, again, it was at rehearsal. I had a drummer that could just go do that, and then riffs just came. Yep. This is where it wants to go.
Cool.
If I had, the computer, okay, I have a good riff, then I need to start clicking drums, and it's just killing the vibe. So I would prefer us to be a rehearsing band, but that's just how it is.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. It's an interesting debate between like what is good, quote unquote good, and what feels good. Like, or because some people can get lost writing in. I don't know if you study guitar, so you must know some theory, right? You must have learned theory when you're taking lessons. So some people get lost in the theory. Some people write more with their gut or trust their gut more.
Yeah, I would trust my gut because this word I do not know. It's easier to receive for the listener if it's based on emotions rather than you need to understand. I don't know, super strange scales to understand that what Yngwie Malmsteen did right there,
Yeah. Does that mean too, sometimes you have a riff that you like absolutely love, but it is kind of like a dead end riff? Like it doesn't seem to go anywhere, so you kind of have to throw it away?
Yeah. Kill your darlings. Yeah.
What was that? Absolutely. What was that? Kill your what?
Kill your darlings.
Kill your darlings. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I've heard that before.
So good. And then if I don't immediately start writing something, then it'll grow in my head that this is impossibly good, and then nothing will sound good next to it.
Okay.
So I need to wait even if it's late, I need to get up for work tomorrow. I have to. I know, oh shit, I need to write something,
Okay.
And I've through many riffs I've had to throw away, I've learned this.
Okay. That's interesting. So you could fall in love with a riff and then that just like almost weighs you down because you think it's too good to be wasted.
Exactly. And then it's so good in your head that nothing sounds good enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. Kill your darlings. Okay. I don't think I've heard that before. So that's a good lesson out there. Cause I've fallen into that trap before where you have a riff that follows you for 5 years and you think it's going to be something great.
Yeah. So my advice is when you feel that, oh, this is going to be great, then keep on. You have to keep on. Put something next to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Get it out in the moment. Okay. That's cool. That's a good lesson. So I read that this is kind of like an anti-war album. Is that, would that be accurate?
Yeah. So I happened upon this Wikipedia page that was about Letters of Last Resort. I don't know if you've read it.
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, so it talks about the UK Prime Minister and the letters that he or she writes. Every new Prime Minister writes their own letters, and they are sent to the commanders of their nuclear-armed submarines.
Okay.
They're locked in, and in the event of a communication breakdown with London, and there's a conflict, they open this and they read their instructions. This is what you need to do. And it's very secret. As soon as a new prime minister writes new letters, the old ones get taken out and burned because, you don't want someone to be accused of, oh, you said annihilate the world, something. Anyway, so British newspaper listed, they had found out 4 things that were said in one of these letters. Like, first alternative was do nothing. Second one was retaliate. Third one was go to Australia and join their forces. The fourth one was the one that hit me. It said, go to the United States if it is still there. Mm-hmm. Like, all of us know what a nuclear war would mean, but those words, like if it is still there, it might be, gone. And with the times we're living in, and it had been 8 years since we put out an album, I felt like, should at least say something worth saying. So it's not a concept album, but it has that theme, many of the songs.
Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty heavy theme.
Warhead is actually, it should be a space in between that warhead. Like politicians or whatever, nationalists, they thrive on war. They want war, I guess. And, they have a warhead on their shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of war hawk, I guess I hear that term thrown around a lot. Okay. Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, and I guess you can see that too in the titles of a few of the tracks. It kind of has that vibe.
Yeah.
Maybe we just briefly here talk about too the studio you guys. I know you kind of recorded in a couple different places, but the majority of it was done in Bauhaus. Is that correct? Bauhaus, yes.
Yeah. So Oscar Nilsson is a guy that I've learned to know through from me playing with the Halo Effect.
Okay.
So they've recorded the albums with him, and so he's an old Haunted fan, and he was like, "We have to do the Haunted." And when I got the plugin last year, and I wrote all these songs, the rest of the band were like, of course they wanted to do an album, but it had been so long that they were kind of not skeptical, but I had a hard time getting them going. So I said, I turned into the project leader. So, okay, so I have a great studio. We're going to record there. It's an old studio, but Oscar is the new owner, so he's fixed everything up. But Status Quo recorded a few hits there in the 70s and stuff. So Oscar is an old drummer. And so he was great at coaching Adrian while recording drums. Of course, the things that you can do that better, but also try this and go more here. This is more you, because he's been listening to Adrian a lot. So that was a big boost for the album. He also understood that we need to keep this sounding dangerous. So, not going overly along the grid and whatever. So we needed someone that could record Marco, but someone who could give him good feedback, like directions, and produce the vocals. We had a guy that he used to record with, but who was great, still a great friend and everything, but he had moved from Stockholm. So who could we find to replace him? So I suggested Björn because he's a singer. Björn and Marco, they know each other since 20 years. They respect each other. Maybe a singer can get Marco to, a comfortable place where he can try out different things. And also Björn, when he does his vocals for solo work, he goes to Devin Townsend. So maybe he's picked up a few good things from him. And Marco was hesitant at first. It would probably be like telling me that I need to record rhythm guitars with Hetfield or someone,
Okay. Intimidated?
Björn is such a great singer.
Man. Yeah.
But after when we got the first 3-4 songs back from Marco and Marco was raving. This is the best thing ever. So so that best vocals, I don't think Marco's ever sounded better. Ola did vocals great solos, sorry. And then Jensen's mix. So everything just
came together, yeah. And recording vocals, obviously, like really vulnerable. I guess I shouldn't say obviously, because a lot of people haven't recorded vocals, but you're very vulnerable, you're very exposed, and someone's just kind of watching you do something really personal. So
exactly, your instrument is your body, and, so it takes. I think it's great that another singer who knows how it is to be on the spot at the mic, what to say and everything.
For sure.
Also, the 2 previous albums we did. I think in some places, you do a chorus once, it works, you copy it. But that's not what we wanted to do now, because when you're 10 albums deep into your catalog, there are many songs on the album that will never get played again. And they deserve to have, each chorus sung. Well, why not? Why not make it? Again, if you've heard of a chorus once, and your brain, you want to get surprised. Do it a little bit different next time. Just honor the song or value the song enough.
Yeah, honoring the song. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And when you said that, there's some songs, when you have such a large catalog, some songs might never get played live, which kind of means like they never get honored in that way to be played as a full band, start to finish, with all the little mistakes and that'll happen when you're playing live. So that's a really interesting way to put that. Are you guys coming over to North America to tour this record?
We would love to. There's a lot of bands, even Swedish bands, that are getting turned away from entering the U.S.
Yeah, okay.
For whatever reasons.
Yeah,
but we would love to. Maybe because you're in Canada, right?
Canada, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe Canada. We'll do a Canadian run.
That would be sweet. I mean, there's some distance to cover when you're out west in the prairies, but like Montreal, of course, is like a metal. They freaking love metal in Montreal. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. I love playing in Canada.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, so the record's out May 30th. So there's got to be someone in Montreal, or you guys got contacts, I'm sure, that would take you across the country. And
it's a large festival in Montreal, like an outdoor thing that.
Yeah, Heavy MTL. I'm pretty sure that's still going. I know. Yeah, Heavy MTL. That would be a big outdoor multiple day festival. Yeah, that would be sick. Yeah,
make it happen, whoever's listening.
Yeah. And Halifax, every once in a while. Like I think Metallica's played Halifax, so that's like 3 or 4 hours away from where I'm at. It's on the actual east coast of Canada.
Yeah, that's when we left Canada. My dad wanted to bring his big car with him because it was he liked cars. So we drove from Edmonton to Halifax, actually.
Oh, nice.
So we could get the car on a ship to Europe, and then we flew from Halifax. So, yeah.
Cool. So you did the cross-country, pretty much cross-country drive.
It was like last trip, we were going to see the country, and
That's
of course, I was only 10 years old, and I had my nose in Superman magazine or something. But
That's cool. Well, okay. Well, before we go, Jensen, is your plugin available for folks to check out?
Sure. Yeah. Softtube?
Softtube, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I used to work for Softtube. Now I work for Volgren Digital.
Okay, cool.
So, but the Engel Savage.
Okay.
It's called.
Cool.
It's amazing. And if it helps more people stuck in a rut like I was, then yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that new piece of gear or new plugin can be the inspiration for an entire record, right? Yep.
That was amazing. And I think it's dirt cheap too. Cool. So check it out.
Awesome. Yeah. Anyone who needs a new plugin, new inspiration, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
And definitely grab the record on the May 30th, because that's going to be a whole bundle of inspiration too for a ton of folks.
Cool.
So
Thank you.
I really appreciate you giving me some of your time chatting with me today.
It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.
See ya.